Hello, and welcome to my book reading podcast. In today's episode, I will be reading random paragraphs from the book Conversations with God, Book 1 by Neale Donald Walsch. So I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs from the first chapter. And in this chapter, Neale Donald Walsch, I'll just call him Neale so I don't have to say his whole name, it's just really long, is talking to God and he's asking him, how can I learn the laws of the universe? So the laws of the universe that God has laid down, these are the perfect laws which create the perfect function of the physical world. And then God says it's not a question of learning, but it's of remembering. So we all instinctively know the laws, the natural laws of the universe, what ethically is right and morally. And it's just a matter of going within and remembering it. So then God says, begin by being still, quiet the outer world, so the outside of your own being, so that the inner world, your inside, brings you sight. So the inside of you is the knowledge is already inside you. And so if you quieten the outside, then you're able to hear the inside. And then God says, this insight. So if you look at the word insight, it's comprised of in and sight. So this insight is what you seek, yet you cannot have it while you are so deeply concerned with your outer reality. So you can't have this insight until you distance yourself from the outer reality. So therefore, God says, seek therefore to go within. So go within as much as possible. So that's what a lot of people in the meditation community talk about, is going within. I'm going to meditate on that. And that's just really about quieting your mind, and so that you can connect with your inner being, as Abraham Hicks talks about, Esther Hicks talks about our inner being, so that if you quieten the external, you can listen to your inside voice. So you already know what the answers are. It's like when you have a problem and you have to get advice, but sometimes you already know what to do. You just want to have someone be a sounding board for you. I think Abraham Lincoln had a really good friend that he would call when he was really struggling with something, and that friend would just sit there and listen to him. So he was just acting like a sounding board, and that's what we all really need. We just need someone to just hold space for us and to listen to us, so that we can have the opportunity to just go through all our different options and then come up with the solution ourselves, because we don't really like being told what to do. We don't really like advice. We prefer to figure it out on our own, because when we do that, it empowers us. Okay, so let's get back to the book. So God says, seek therefore to go within as much as possible. And when you are not going within, come from within as you deal with the outside world. Remember this axiom. If you do not go within, you go without. And then God says, I'm going to put it in the first person as you repeat it to make it more personal. So if you want, you can repeat this as well in your mind or out loud. If I do not go within, I go without. So that's really good. So that's really talking about how if we just quieten our mind, we can really listen to, what our inner thoughts are telling us, what our subconscious is telling us. And our subconscious is connected to the cosmos, is connected to the collective consciousness, and we have a direct connection with divine God through our subconscious. And so then God says that failing to believe in any of this means failure to believe in God, for belief in God produces belief in God's greatest gift, which is unconditional love, and God's greatest promise, unlimited potential. So what God is saying here is that God's greatest gift to humans is unconditional love. And when we experience unconditional love, or that's we're actually experiencing God, and that God's greatest promise to us is that we have unlimited potential to create the reality that we want to experience. And so then God says, I'm skipping a few paragraphs, I'm only going to read highlighted parts. So God says, the purpose is to create your experience and thus create yourself in the glorious moment of now. You do not therefore choose the life you will experience ahead of time. So the whole purpose of us being born, being on this planet, is to create our reality, create our experience. So then God is talking about how when something is happening, and we should be in a state of observant. So that way, I also heard from someone else is the importance of depolarizing ourselves, because in this reality, everything is polarized. Good and evil, dark and light. And so the idea is to then transcend from that and see it from a state of observation. So God is saying what is appropriate is to observe it, and then to do whatever might be done to assist the soul in seeking and making a higher choice. So basically, if somebody, so we're not supposed to really interfere with a person's soul path, their journey, because people don't like unsolicited advice and an opinion on what they're doing in their lives. It's like people don't like that unless they ask you for help. Then you can step in and say, okay, how can I help you? I mean, obviously you're going to use your judgment. If somebody needs help and isn't asking for it, obviously you're going to help them. So then God says, be watchful, therefore, of the choice of others, but not judgmental. Know that their choice is perfect for them in this moment now. Yet, stand ready to assist them should the moment come when they seek a newer choice, a different choice, a higher choice. Move into communion with the souls of others and their purpose. Their intention will be clear to you. This is what Jesus did with those he healed and with all those whose lives he touched. Jesus healed all those who came to him or who sent others to him supplicating for them. He did not perform a random healing. To have done so would have been to violate a sacred law of the universe. Allow each soul to walk its path. So that was really important to really listen to that. Jesus didn't perform random healings. He only healed those who came to him asking to be healed. So then God says, you see, the question answers itself. If a thing is obviously right to do, but remember to exercise extreme judgment regarding what you call right and wrong. This is in response to Neale saying, shouldn't we just help anyone without being asked, like starving children or tortured, masses of people, humanitarian work, charity work. And then God says, that if a thing is obviously right to do, then yes, you have to use your judgment. So that pretty much goes without saying. A thing is only right or wrong because you say it is. A thing is not right or wrong intrinsically. And then Neale says it isn't, and then God says rightness or wrongness is not an intrinsic condition. It is a subjective judgment in a personal value system. Okay, I don't know if that made a lot of sense because I was jumping around the paragraphs quite a bit. So hopefully it will, trigger something in your subconscious, and you'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So sometimes when I'm talking, it might not make sense because I am just randomly reading different paragraphs, but my hope is that it will trigger some latent information in your own body, in your own mind, and then you'll have some sort of clarification. Then God says, the grandest teaching of Christ was not that you shall have everlasting life, but that you do. Not that you shall have brotherhood in God, but that you do. Not that you shall have whatever you request, but that you do. All that is required is to know this, for you are the creator of your reality, and life can show up no other way for you than that way in which you think it will. So this is going back to the idea that our thoughts create our reality. So what you think then manifests into the physical realm. So then God says, you think it into being. This is the first step in creation. So, God the Father is thought. Your thought is the parent which gives birth to all things. This is one of the laws we are to remember. God says, emotion is energy in motion. When you move energy, you create effect. If you move enough energy, you create matter. Matter is energy conglomerated, moved around, shoved together. If you manipulate energy long enough in a certain way, you get matter. Every master understands this law. It is the alchemy of the universe. It is the secret of all life. God says, thought is pure energy. Every thought you have ever... So let me say that again. Thought is pure energy. Every thought you have ever had and ever will have is creative. So basically, thoughts are creative. So what you're thinking, you're actually creating it in reality. So once you have a thought, it goes out into the universe and it's forever. So God says, the energy of your thought never ever dies, ever. It leaves your being and heads out into the universe, extending forever. A thought is forever. So that's really powerful. We are so powerful that our thoughts will last forever. So that's why it's really important. It's really important to be really mindful of the thoughts we are thinking, because if we're not mindful of what we're thinking, we could be like creating a reality that we don't actually want to experience, creating a life. You know how people are always thinking negative thoughts and then negative things always happen to them? That's not by accident. That's by design. There's no such thing as coincidence in this universe. Every thought that we think has an impact in our lives, in our universe, in our reality. So if we take the time to be really mindful of the thoughts that we're thinking, sometimes we're thinking thoughts and they don't even belong to us. And that's for another podcast. That's, the Matrix putting erroneous thoughts into our head purposely. But what you can do, I heard that every time a thought comes into your brain that you don't like, and you can say to yourself, I reject that thought. You can say it in your mind, you can say it out loud. If you say it out loud, it's a little bit more effective. And so if you do that for 3 months, it's really gonna improve your life. Someone said that. And if a thought comes into your mind that you do like and you do want to manifest, you can say, I accept that thought. So I challenge you for the next 3 months, every time a thought comes into your mind, you either say, I reject that thought, or I accept that thought, depending on the nature of the thought. And you'll see that your life will change. It's that powerful. Okay, so I'm going to say this again, what God was talking about thoughts. So thought is pure energy. Every thought you have ever had and ever will have is creative. So thought is pure energy. Every thought you have ever had and ever will have is creative. The energy of your thought never ever dies, ever. It leaves your being and heads out into the universe, extending forever. A thought is forever. All thoughts congeal. All thoughts meet other thoughts, crisscrossing in an incredible maze of energy, forming an ever-changing pattern of unspeakable beauty and unbelievable complexity. So that also reminds me of how we live in this 3D reality, and because we have a collective consciousness, because majority of society believe in a certain thing, that then manifests into reality. For instance, we all believe that we can't fly, so that's not going to be possible for us. We can't fly because there's this collective consciousness thought that we can't fly. So until we have like a mass collective consciousness thinking of a different thought, then we can manifest that into reality. But then we are also bound by 3D physical laws. So things like that can't be possible in this reality, maybe in another reality, in another dimension. So God talks about how people of like mind can work together to create a favored reality. The phrase, wherever two or more are gathered in my name, becomes much more meaningful. And God says, of course, when entire societies think a certain way, very astonishing things can happen, not all of them necessarily desirable. For instance, a society living in fear very often actually, inevitably, produces in form that which it fears most. And I'm just going to add my own thoughts about that, my own notes as such. And that's what the controllers do. That's why they create these films and TV shows painting a dystopian future, because they want to put that into our subconscious so that we think about it and then tap into the collective's manifesting ability. So if we all think that, then we will manifest it. So that's why they make these zombie type dystopian apocalyptic type films, because they want to manifest that into reality by using us as sort of conduits, as thought manifesting vessels as such. Okay, so back to the book. So God then says, large communities or congregations often find miracle producing power in combined thinking, or what some people call common prayer. And then God says it must be clear that even individuals, if their thought, i.e., prayer, hope, wish, dream, fear, is amazingly strong, can in and of themselves produce such results. Jesus did this regularly. He understood how to manipulate energy and matter, how to rearrange it, how to redistribute it, how to utterly control it. Many masters have known this. Many know it now. You can know it now. You can know it right now. Okay, so another bit I want to talk about is when God talks about the laws are very simple. So 1, thought is creative. 2, fear attracts like energy. And 3, love is all there is. So God says love is the ultimate reality. It is the only. the all. The feeling of love is your experience of God. So that is worth repeating again. Love is the ultimate reality. It is the only, the all. The feeling of love is your experience of God. So that feeling you have, that love, whichever love it is, that's you experiencing God. And God then says, in highest truth, love is all there is, all there was, and all there ever will be. When you move into the absolute, you move into love. One of the laws of the universe is that of the law of polarity. Everything has its polar opposite. So in the book, God is saying, fear is the other end of love. It is the primal polarity. In creating the realm of the relative, God first created the opposite of God's self. Now, in the realm in which you live on the physical plane, there are only two places of being, fear and love. Thoughts rooted in fear will produce one kind of manifestation on the physical plane. Thoughts rooted in love will produce another. The masters who have walked the planet are those who have discovered the secret of the relative world and refuse to acknowledge its reality. In short, masters are those who have chosen only love. So then in the book, God is talking about how love is the answer. Love is the answer. And God says that there are no coincidences in the universe. And God says that God has heard the crying of your heart. God has seen the searching of your soul. God knows how deeply you have desired the truth. In the pain have you called out for it, and in joy unendingly have you beseeched God. Show God's self, explain God's self, reveal God's self. And then God says that God is doing so here in terms so plain you cannot misunderstand, in language so simple you can't be confused. So then God says to Neale, so go ahead now, ask me anything, anything. I will contrive to bring you the answer. The whole universe will I use to do this. So be on the lookout. This book is far from my only tool. You may ask a question, then put this book down. But watch, listen. The words to the next song you hear, the information in the next article you read, the storyline of the next movie you watch, the chance utterance of the next person you meet, or the whisper of the next river, the next ocean, the next breeze that caresses your ear, all these devices are God's. They are God's. That's God talking to you. So when you ask a question to God, to the universe, listen out for the answer, because the answer will come to you in a song, in a scene from a film, in a dialogue from a film or a TV show, or in a book or some YouTube video, or somebody saying something. I mean, I'm sensing so many synchronicities. It's incredible. It's like I will read something and then I will see it in a TV show and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So God is saying that all these devices are God's. All these avenues are open in order to connect with God. And that God will speak to you if you will listen. God will come to you if you will invite God into your heart, into your life. And that God will show you then that God has always been there in all ways. So I'm just going to end that right there. So the lesson for today is that if you have a question, just put it out there. You know, say it in your head, say it in your mind, say a little prayer for it, or just think it. And then look out for the answers, because the answers will be revealed to you. The universe will give you the answer. You just have to be open to it and not think that it's a coincidence and, usher it away, but really open to it. And the more you do that, the more you will develop your intuitive power, because we all have this intuitive knowing of what the answer is. Okay, so thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you in the next one.